Why do you keep checking her social media, hoping she'll post something that proves she misses you? Why are you constantly replaying conversations in your head, wondering what you could have said differently? Here's the brutal truth nobody wants to tell you. Everything you think you know about making her regret losing you is completely backwards. And by the end of this video, you'll understand the one psychological principle that changes everything. But first, let me tell you about the biggest mistake I see guys making. You think making her regret losing you means showing her what she's missing. You think it's about posting the perfect photo, getting in the best shape of your life, or dating someone new just to make her jealous. That approach fails every single time, and I'll explain exactly why in a moment. Here's what actually makes someone regret losing you. It's not your success, it's not your new relationship, it's not your transformation photos. But there's something much deeper happening here that most people completely miss. Something that taps into a fundamental human psychology that I discovered after studying hundreds of breakup situations. Think about it this way. When someone is constantly trying to prove their worth to you, what does that tell you about their worth? When someone is bending over backwards to get your attention, how much do you actually value that attention? The answer reveals everything about why your current approach isn't working. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is crucial for understanding what comes next. The desperate energy you're putting out right now is actually reinforcing her decision to leave. Every text you send, every social media post designed to get her attention, every attempt to show her what she's missing, is proving that what she lost wasn't actually that valuable to begin with. Now, I'm going to share the psychological principle that changes everything, but you need to understand why conventional advice fails first. Most people tell you to ignore her, to play games, to post cryptic messages. That's still attention-seeking behavior. That's still making your life about her. And she can sense that desperation from a mile away. Real regret doesn't come from seeing what you've gained. It comes from realizing what they lost when they had it. But there's a specific way this has to happen, and it's the opposite of what your instincts are telling you to do right now. Here's the first part of what actually works, but this won't make sense until I explain the psychology behind it. When you were together, she knew she had you. She could take you for granted because your attention, your energy, your emotional availability was always there. Even during arguments, even when things were difficult, she knew that ultimately you cared too much to really walk away. But now something has to shift. Now she needs to deal with the reality that you might actually be okay without her. And that's terrifying for someone who assumed they were indispensable to your happiness. However, you cannot fake this. You cannot pretend to be indifferent while secretly hoping she'll notice. Because if that's your motivation, you're still giving her power over your emotional state. This is where most guys completely fail, and it's why I need to explain the second psychological principle before we get to the main strategy. We don't value things that are always available to us. We value things that have boundaries, that have standards, that might not always be there. When you remove yourself completely from her emotional landscape, you force her to confront the reality of your absence. But here's the crucial part that changes everything. This confrontation doesn't happen immediately. It happens slowly, in specific moments when she expects to hear from you and doesn't. It happens when she has good news and realizes she can't share it with you anymore. It happens when something reminds her of you and she realizes she has no idea what you're doing or how you're feeling. Now I'm going to reveal the core strategy, but everything I've explained so far is essential for understanding why this works. The only way to create real regret is if you genuinely move on, not as a strategy to get her back, but as a genuine shift in your life priorities. And paradoxically, the moment you stop caring whether she regrets losing you is the moment she's most likely to actually feel that regret. This means investing in yourself, but not for her. This means building new relationships, but not to make her jealous. This means pursuing your goals, but not to prove something to her. But there's a specific order to how you do this, and getting it wrong will sabotage everything. Here's what happens when you do this authentically, and this is where the real psychology kicks in. You become the version of yourself that she fell for in the first place. You become someone with your own life, your own interests, your own source of happiness. You become someone who doesn't need her validation to feel worthy. Remember how attractive you were when you first met, before you became so invested in the relationship that you lost yourself in it, before her opinion of you became more important than your opinion of yourself. That version of you is still there. That version of you is what made her interested in the first place. But accessing that version requires understanding something most people never figure out. You can't be genuinely confident while you're secretly hoping for her approval. You can't be authentically happy while you're measuring your worth by whether she regrets losing you. This creates a psychological contradiction that she can sense immediately, and it destroys any possibility of genuine regret. So here's what making her regret losing you actually looks like in practice. It looks like you disappearing from her emotional radar completely. It looks like you building a life so fulfilling that you genuinely forget to check if she's watching. It looks like you becoming so centered in your own happiness that her presence or absence becomes irrelevant to your daily experience. But there's something even more powerful happening beneath the surface. When she realizes that you're not fighting for her, not chasing her, not trying to convince her of your worth, something shifts in her perception. When she understands that you've genuinely moved on and built something beautiful without her, that's when the real regret hits. Because regret isn't about what you're doing now. Regret is about what she had and didn't appreciate. Regret is about the realization that she let go of someone who was actually worth keeping. And she can only have that realization when you stop trying to convince her of it. The irony is that the moment you stop caring whether she regrets losing you, you become the kind of person that's actually worth regretting. The moment you stop needing her validation, you become someone whose validation actually means something. So stop checking her social media. Stop asking about her. Stop planning your life around the possibility that she might notice. Start building something so meaningful that you genuinely don't have time to wonder if she regrets losing you. Because the truth is, whether she regrets it or not doesn't actually matter. What matters is that you become someone worth keeping, someone worth choosing, someone worth regretting. And you can only become that person when you stop making your worth dependent on her recognition of it.